Hey guys, what's up? I'm the Rap Nerd, and this is my list of top 10 Indian rap albums of 2021. Personally, I think it has been a great year for Indian hip hop because there have been so many good quality albums released with so much variety. You got great concept albums, you got great albums with stellar production, bars, new styles of rap, and like it's been a very interesting experience on its own. And I'm so glad that I just started paying serious attention to Indian rap scene, and this was my first year, and I've been so lucky that I managed to ran into so many great albums. Now, before we get started, there is one simple thing that on what basis am I putting this list? It's just a simple thing. It goes on for what replay value this particular album had. That means that I get it, I enjoyed it. That's the reason why it's on my list in the first place. But it goes on a scale of how much I enjoyed it. So I tried to reduce this particular barrier that must have been there for different genres, subgenres, vibe of what particular album has been. I tried to reduce it down to my own enjoyability because I felt that that's what the purpose of my list should be. That whichever album just hits me, makes me feel that I should go back to this album, should be ranked higher. Number two is that I decided that there should be, even though the title is top album of the year, I have decided to include EPs, I have decided to include compilations and mixtapes as well. Because the quality of these projects have been so good, that I felt that it's only fair that I just share my particular interest or my enjoyed music with you all in that regard as well. Alright, on number 10, we have Delhi Trap House by Satya.
दिल्ली के ट्रैप हाउस में स्वागत है हर गाना नशों पे आधारित है इन गानों में तलब की ताकत है सुनेगा तो मुक्ति की चाहत.
I think this album, what strikes out to me is how good and how simple the concept of this album is, but at the same time, the way he executes it, it takes us as listeners in a journey of its own. The album basically encapsulates Satyam's journey from not acknowledging his mental health to suffering a lot of anxiety attacks and other traumas, and then finally setting himself free and becoming a better person that he wished to initially. Almost every song is either preceded or followed by a skit where the listener is made aware of what his current state of mind is. You will see that his friends initially neglecting his admission about mental health, followed by once he has a breakdown, then they start acknowledging it, then he tries to set himself free, and then he subsequently does so. Delhi Trap House is a very good album that symbolizes his lifestyle, which involves drugs, corporate life, failing to sustain in corporate life, shallow friendships, and finding yourselves. On number 9, I have Tabia by Prabhupada.
शो तो बात कर दिया दोस्तां नु कॉल कहंदी अज नहीं मैं आधी राती घर.
Now I know that this particular selection is going to piss a lot of people off, and I can imagine people like getting into my comment section and like giving me some shit for it. But hear me out. Here's the thing. I get it that when this particular album was released, it was a huge moment in hip hop. There was like a widespread acclaim for what Pradeep did, and rightly so. Like, what I felt is that Tabia is a very complex, very delicate in a beautiful way. It's a very good musical journey where you again, just like Delhi Trap House, you talk about an artist trying to set himself free from what demons that this particular artist had back in the past, and just wants to become something better. He wants to be free. And Tabia, which upon research I got to know, refers to a chess move where a particular player that has a turn has to make a decision. Hence the theme where Pradeep has to make a decision about how he wants to take his life from this point on. My only problem that why this album did not rank higher was that although it's a majestic musical experience of its own, it just feels so beautiful, it feels so lush. It's just that it was not there in I just did not find it playing it that very often, which again I think it's more up to me rather than Pradeep. I don't think that should tell you that maybe that album is not that good of a quality of sorts or anything. No, it's not that. It's not that case at all. I would definitely recommend people to listen to that album. It's fantastic. It's this is the kind of album that pushes boundaries. It's just that it was not there in my rotation enough. So yeah. On number 8, I have Black Label Mixtape Volume 3.
देख बेटे देख तेज मेरा चाल चलन देखना तो बेटे देखना तो खा जलन बदलेगा मौसम जो
So this is a compilation from Dakat, Ankit Atori and Twofisted, if that's how his name is pronounced, with a lot of rappers featuring and some really good production credits as well. By the way, Sez is on this particular compilation as well. So this compilation or a mixtape as they called it, it's a very good blend of slick street shit mixed with some very good production that just blends really well. Like, I don't think it's a very long, again, it's not a very long compilation. I think less than 30 minutes, yeah. It's a very small project, but then it just manages to deliver some really good punchlines, some really good lyrics on very infectious beats. On number 7, I have Yati by Udbhav.
सबको लगता है सब खास है पर ये असल विश्वास है अपने जैसे हर गली में 50 है.
Just like it was the case with Tabia, I think the way this album is constructed is just, I think for listeners, I think it's just going to blow your mind, and like, I think it could definitely challenge your perception of what rap beats can essentially be. Like, we hear a lot of Western or like English artists trying to be experimental with likes of, let's say, Earl Sweatshirt or Danny Brown or like artists of those sorts that not seem to be following the patterns that the mainstream wishes them to be. I think the same case has been for Udbhav as well, that this particular album, I would not say that it is a grand musical experience like Tabia is. This is way more abstract. Like, the way beats are, the way his rhyming has been there, but it's kind of minimalistic. It's more that you hear music or the experiences that Udbhav is trying to convey more than his rhymes, and which I don't think is a bad thing in this particular case. Like, the way he has constructed this particular album, very abstract but very poetic and still very constructive as well. You can hear what he is trying to say. Like, throughout this particular album, the choices of instrumentals, the particular themes that he picks, be it skit or be it a pandit chanting his particular mantras during a yagya or something like that, you hear these particular elements that is there, and just he tries to stitch them into something which is not only a very entertaining listen but also very abstract as well. Like, it has a very hazy kind of psychedelic vibe to it, and overall I think it just makes for a very entertaining listen. So yeah, number 7, Yati by Udbhav. Number 6, I have Sab Chahiye by Raval and Bharg.
दिल्ली का लड़का पर पीता मैं बॉम्बे सफायर एनर्जी नहीं होती कभी भी लो bitch I'm always on fire.
Now, the main reason why it stayed in my playlist for so long and thus was an obvious contender for my album of the year list is simply because it gives me so many different songs for different mood of mine. If I want to listen to a hype song which has a lot of street shit, Jungli Kutta is the perfect track for it. I have personal confession, I have been playing Bombay Sapphire in a lot of parties of mine and it simply does not miss. Like, if there is a correct vibe for it, Bombay Sapphire just will deliver for you. Similarly, Baat Ban Gayi also has a very, very mellow mood to it, and it's perfect. Like, if you want to listen to something that's very soothing, does that as well. And Raval also seemed to be addressing so many different issues of his own as well. Like, he talks about his addiction, him losing his mother, and what impact it had on his life, and how he seems to be getting back on track as well. So yeah, Sab Chahiye is a great album for different mood of yours. It will definitely keep you covered with a lot of personality in there as well. So kudos to Raval for that, and looking forward to the next release as well. Number 5, I have Green Heart Astronaut by Poetic Justice. Speaking of concept albums, there are really few albums that can match the kind of vibe and the execution that Poetic Justice did with Green Heart Astronaut. With this very spacey thematics and lyricism that he displayed on this particular album, it's very... It will send you in a kind of a trance, and at the same time, he also seems to be addressing his personal issues here as well. Not just that, the production here is insane. I think if you are really trying to get into what a good concept album can be, Green Art Astronaut is a very, very good start for you. I see a lot of publications giving a hype to it. They're really recognizing it, and it's for a good reason. Musically, it's great. Poetic Justice's bars are top notch, and it seems to be doing justice as well for the theme. Like, it's really well executed. So yeah, number 5, Green Art Astronaut by Poetic Justice. On number 4, I have Smokey the Ghost with The Human Nation.
3 and 4. If my enemies are demons, I'm a god for sure. Rhymes from temples, yet I'm off the dome.
I think the very good way to summarize this particular album is that I think it can be a great Indian album, in a sense that it seems to be addressing a lot of issues that Indians seems to be facing with on a day-to-day basis. Like, he has a song where he addresses the complexities that come with someone who has a fading hairline. He has a song named Orkut where he mentions that, which is a very interesting theory in itself, by the way, that he mentions that in India the hip hop does not originate from gullies, it's actually from Orkut. Like, I think that he might meant that it actually started from the internet era instead of the gully. Other than that, there is a song which seems to be an anti-Hindi song where he talks about the Hindi imposition, especially on the states that do not seem to be having Hindi as their primary language of communication. So the reason why I picked this album and gave this caption that it's a great Indian album is because a lot of issues, it's a very good socio-political album, but also that album which has a feel where the address, it seems to be addressing issues that you may or may not see in the newspaper but decide to ignore. Now, as we enter into our top 3, next up we got Sikandar Kalan's SK is the Future.
हो जा हाई पर सिर पे तो बच करे ज्यादा उंगली तू रितिक दा हाथ जमीन दे उत्ते मैं छिड़क दा कच.
Now, for a lot of you rap fans, if you have noticed, this particular album art and the title, it actually takes an inspiration from 50 Cent's revolutionary mixtape 50 is the Future. You notice that the cover and the title and even the fonts, it just almost seems to be paying a tribute to it. But yeah, that aside, again, I'm not someone who's well versed or who's really good with Punjabi, so I might be lacking when it comes to really analyzing content. But production wise, I think this is easily the best produced album in this entire list, simply because the beats, not only they go hard, they are polished as hell. His flow is stone cold. The features that he brings here, be it someone who's singing or who has a verse, always brings that charisma. So like, SK is the Future, full of talent, full of style, full of swagger, and I think it is safe to say that nobody is doing gangster shit as good as Sikandar Kalan, and this album just continues to solidify that claim. Number 2, I have Youngster with Mehfil. So this was my first time listening to Youngster, and I'm glad that I ran into this particular album. Honestly speaking, this was my album of the year for a very long time, until this next particular album, which I'll talk about after this. Because like Raval, I think it managed to give you a lot of stuff. Presidential, Fall, like these songs where there is a lot of different type of genres hitting. Presidential has a nice UK drill type beat. Fall is him singing a lot, and he sings really well. One of my favorite track here is the Mehfil Cypher. As if you have checked out my Seedhe Maut mixtape review, there I mentioned that I am a sucker for posse cuts, and nothing makes me happier whenever I hear a very good and well executed posse cut. Mehfil Cypher is easily my favorite track from this, although I'm assured that the people will have different opinions for that, which again is nothing wrong. It just shows how good this particular album is. It has insane replay value for me, and it just sucks that it did not make it into it was not my album of the year, simply because this next album, the moment it came, it was just all over for me. And on number 1, my album of the year goes to Seedhe Maut's mixtape Now. And I know it's kind of self-contradicting that I said album of the year but mentioned mixtape as my first release, my best project this year. But As I mentioned in the disclaimer, it's more fluid. Just because I mentioned it as a top album of the year does not mean if that's the case. So just go back to it. Don't be salty about it. But yeah, if you have checked this particular album review out, if you have not, link will be there in the description, also in there. Like this particular album, I think, I don't know how to describe it, because in terms of like it was the case with SK's The Future, that it's full of charisma, and that charisma is so infectious that for me it did not even matter as such that if I know Punjabi well enough or not to understand it, what he's talking about, what he's rapping about. I think the similar stand-off characteristic is for this particular mixtape as well, that the charisma that Seedhe Maut presented in this particular mixtape, it's so infectious that even though it has a couple of tracks here and there where I just simply did not dig into the wire, I just did not dig into what they were rapping about or how the song turned out to be, the other songs, the replay value there was insane. Like, if you have been someone who's been very close to me, I think the chances are that I have played at least one song from Seedhe Maut's mixtape in past 2 to 3 months. Like the moment I listened to this album, I gave it like a couple of listens. It has just stayed with me. Their energy level, their lyricism, their wit, their chemistry, it's so infectious, it's so enjoyable, it's crazy. Especially that now that upon reviewing the album, I got to know that Calm produced that beat. It was just a matter of time to realize that how comfortable both the rappers sound on their own production. And I wish that continues to be the case, because I know that they will be releasing a new album called Nayab in spring of 22, and I have a lot of hopes from that as well. But this mixtape just gave me so much energy that I went back, I listened to Bayan as well, went on to love it. But for now, from what we have got, I think my Spotify Wrapped is just full of Seedhe Maut tracks, because that's what it has been. Nawazuddin, Namastute, Nanchaku, Natkhat. Like, I can just go on and on about tracks that I at least go back and listen to once a day. So yeah, there might be a case that if you look at artistic value, you might look at, the effort or maybe lyricism, maybe this mixtape might not be as good as some other albums that have made waves this year, or maybe even in this list in particular. But for me personally, I felt that if this particular album made me enjoy music so much, it had such a good replay value, I think it is only justified that I give them the title of the album of the year. So yeah, Seedhe Maut na my album of the year for year 2021. And yeah, that's it. That's the first part of this album of the year video. My next video is going to be about rap album of the year, but for English category. So I hope by the time this video is out, I would have already recorded, or it being on the way of editing it. So please do check out that as well. Please follow me on all the social media handles. I'll put the link in the description. Do share what your top 10 looks like. Do you agree with mine? What are your views? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm the Rap Nerd. Keep listening to music, and Happy New Year.